there, and sometimes you find really powerful allies, and you need to find them. But you also, you're not going to find an ideal environment. I think, you know, there are ranges of acceptance and understanding and inclusion, and there are so many attitudinal barriers in our workplaces. And so I'd encourage you to take some risks in terms of going beyond what feels safe, but also to listen to yourself in that capacity too. It's really important. Don't just, you know, somebody says, that's what you should do. That's in which I have found myself in the most danger. And it's really messed up my career sometimes.
And I'll just add, I'm in my very first job, I'm a year in, I am definitely on the learning curve, learning how to do impact litigation. I'm lucky enough to be working at a place where I also summered and was able to especially give things like my accommodations a trial run. Things like ramps and elevators are easy for everyone to get, but I also deal with fatigue and pain, and I have to take rest breaks throughout the day, and I have a sofa in my office. Things like that are more difficult, at least for me, and I would like to think I'm getting better every day about being able to say, I need to take a break for 30 minutes. I'm sorry, I won't be billing that 0.5 to whatever. I can do it, but you know, I'm gonna do it a little later. So, and it's depending, disclosing your disability as a whole is just very much an art, and but knowing that your accommodations are gonna work, and honestly that you will have an ally that will stick up for you, that will say, you know, let Rebecca take a break for a few minutes when needed is I think really key. And also matching in terms of, I was in North Carolina and I knew I had to get to the Bay Area, you know, that's where my heart was, I wanted to be here. And you know, at some point I was going through this fellowship process and tanking and all the equal justice work stuff, but you know, I think at some point I decided I would take just any kind of disability advocacy job in the Bay Area if my fellowship at DRA didn't pan out, even if it wasn't a lawyer job per se, just because I wanted to be here. And you know, for some people it's more important to get a job in a certain location. So, or you may, you know, have partners and you're trying to match up geographically, all sorts of things factor in.
And I'll just jump off of something that Rebecca said, in that this is also my first job, and I also had the opportunity to spend a couple of semesters doing clerkships with the Employment Law Center before I started. And to me that was really invaluable, and I would really encourage any of you, any of you who you know, are 1Ls or 2Ls or even in your last year and have the opportunity to go to various firms or organizations or, you know, wherever it is that you're thinking about working, and experience that, and meet the people and get comfortable and see what works for you and what doesn't. I think that that can really make the process a lot easier when you are, you know, looking for something afterwards, to sort of know your environment, or at least what sort of environment works for you.
And just the general advice of being aggressive, and if you see someone that's doing work that you find really attractive, go talk to them, ask them, hey, you've got summer internships, I want to do what you're doing, or I want to see what it's like, and then decide. And you don't have to do disability rights work just because you have disabilities. I know that we all do that. But no, I think it's really important. I mean, that's the reason I went to law school, but that is not the case for many people. And you need to do what you're passionate about. And we truly do need people with disabilities in all sectors. Everywhere. Absolutely, we need people. We need disabled prosecutors. Damn it, we've got to get out there. We're not judges. We need to, you know, represent. We need to be in academia, and NALSWD has done it's really wonderful to see it come together, and we need to keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. It's really important community, and you will draw a lot of strength and mentorship from this vast network.
Yeah, I'll just echo that, underline it, yell it out, is that, you know, every opportunity I have ever gotten has been through kind of networking and making, you know, having a good connection with someone. someone thinking that I would be good at, X or Y, and, very rare do opportunities come just out of, with no personal contact. Whether that's right or wrong, that's the way of the world. And thank goodness for all the work that everyone in the room has done to put NALSWD together. It's so important. We're going to try and do an attorney group similar to NALSWD.
Yeah, and I would echo that as well. I mean, that's been my experience too. And there are people looking out for you when you don't quite realize it. And it's about building relationships. And it's not about being strategic and doing that, because not everything will pan out, right? I mean, that's not the end game of networking. I mean, it is about creating a support network, because what you will find in your job is that no matter what your disability experience is, that you can, or even if you work in an office that's a disability focus, or there's a lot of people with disabilities around, you may end up, that's not necessarily been my experience. So I've ended up feeling quite isolated sometimes at work with disability issues. And, and also we're in the legal profession, and honestly, we are trained not to expose our vulnerabilities. And I have not wanted to share my vulnerabilities. Whether it's been having just a cranky class. I mean, when you're like, I want to get rid of them. I have them for 14 weeks. Are they always this bratty? But not wanting to share that because you feel like you're being evaluated, or working with this awful partner and not realizing that that's part of the hazing at the firm because no one bothers to tell you. And so it's hard to know when to reach out to other people because you do feel like you're being evaluated. You may feel like you need to overcompensate in some ways, to be a super grip or whatever it is, or at least to show that you're keeping up. And so you may not want to be the person who seems like they're always complaining or questioning the way the environment is, or the way the work is assigned. But I think it's really important to find some people that you can trust to check in with. It's great to have NALSWD and the people that you meet here as a resource, because no matter where they are, you can always check in with them online or by phone or whatever makes sense for you technology-wise, but then within your own workplace. And so there are lots of other people who may end up, in legal academia, we think, for example, it's really flexible. And I know a lot of people with disabilities want to go into it because they think it'll work with my schedule, especially if I have issues of fatigue or I have to pace myself for work. But there are aspects of it that are really grueling as well. And so I found it really helpful to find other people who may feel marginalized. But, some of my greatest fans are like 80-year-old white guys, too, who have not felt marginalized, but who maybe get it because of family experiences or maybe concerned about the state of the profession. So don't necessarily exclude people from who could be in your network of people to kind of champion and look out for you. You do have to be careful in reaching out. But you shouldn't try to keep all of that to yourself, because I think it can ultimately doom you. And this gets into sort of the formal aspects of disclosure too. Not just asking for accommodations, but to what extent you share your disability with people and sort of use it as a bridge to connect with others.
So, do we have, first of all, any questions regarding what we've talked about so far? Is there...
I don't know if I have general questions about disclosure. For instance, like I have fibromyalgia, invisible, and I'm volunteering in an organization. I'm a 1L. I'm volunteering in an organization right now I would love to work at in a couple years. Do I say anything right now? I can schedule, when I'm going in to do my volunteer work around how I'm feeling, so they don't necessarily need to know that. Should I?
I'll tell you what most people do with hidden disabilities. This is sort of generally, not necessarily specific to the legal profession. Most people, if it's possible, start working and develop a working relationship prior to disclosure and develop that relationship. And then once the relationship is developed, then if disclosure is appropriate, then disclosure happens. That's what most people do. But there are situations where maybe that wouldn't be appropriate. Yes, Corey.
Do you think that some employers might see that as being dishonest or, secret, like kind of almost like a lie, like you didn't disclose at first, you knew that you had to.
I ended up doing a study of women lawyers and accommodations, and I found that most of us self-accommodate to the extent that we can, right? And most of you probably self-accommodate to some extent. You may not ask for everything that you actually need or deserve. And that part of that, and some people who did, I mean, that's the flip side of that. So some people who disclosed later on, especially with mental health issues, which are highly stigmatized, right? The employers felt duped, and they ended up, being on the fast track out of there. That's not